How's it going, YouTube? It's Nomad TCG here, back at it again with another video. So, I have something that is probably worse for the health of Edison format than Dragon Turbo. So, I was sitting around and I was actually curious if I could build an EXODIA deck that actually works in this format, and yeah, you can. And this deck's success rate is through the roof. I went through very much trial and error trying to build this with different monster ratios, different ideas, but eventually I landed back on a dragon engine because it was one of the first ways that I built an EXODIA deck when I was like a kid, after doing my research. And it was probably a couple years after Edison format, like 2011 or 2012 era, that I built this. But revisiting it, it definitely works in Edison format. And so basically what I want to do is talk about this deck, talk about some strategies you could use to actually defeat this deck, and talk about some other options and why they didn't make the cut, or things I went through and tested and weren't really worth it. So if we look at our deck, it's clean 40, of course. We got to draw into those EXODIA pieces. We don't really have a side deck built because messing with the deck's ratios can honestly make the whole deck crumble and fall apart. There is arguments for playing like one of side decks because you will definitely draw into them. But I haven't landed that far. I wanted to bring this to your attention because this can definitely be a problem. So, we play 3 Thunder Dragon. So you might ask, why Thunder Dragon? So it's a +1 on its activation. So you discard 1 copy, you get 2 copies, and then also you can even discard 1 to get 1 to get 1, which I'll explain why that is actually useful in this deck in just a moment. And then we play our Dragon Engine. So these are going to work well with our cards like Tune Table, which searches the Blue Eyes Tune. This works well with cards Consonants to pitch our White Stone. And then Trade In works with our Blue Eyes. So you might look at this and wonder, okay, so how does each card kind of work with the spells? So Hand Destruction works really well with Thunder Dragon because discarding it to get 2 copies, you got that +1. Now your Hand Destruction is essentially free and you don't neg from it. So you can pitch the Thunder Dragons, and that will allow you to draw 2 new cards. This also works really well with our White Stones if we don't see cards Consonants, because you can pitch this, draw 2, and then search Blue Eyes. So again, you're back at a plus advantage. That's kind of how this deck works, is you will oftentimes towards like the middle of getting through your deck, you'll have like 9 to 10 cards in your hand, and then that just never changes. You usually always get your EXODIA victory by having like at least 8 or more cards in your hand, which is kind of absurd. So you look here and you see that we play only 2 Blue Eyes White Dragon and 1 Blue Eyes Tune. So why? Okay, so that's 3 level 8 monsters, which works perfectly with our 3 trade-ins. We didn't want to go and play a 3rd Blue Eyes because then we have 4 level 8s with only 3 copies of trade-in. So essentially 1 copy was never going to be discarded for trade-in. Yeah, you have your arguments with like dealings or hand destruction, but this ratio worked so well. And also we're playing a card like Pot of Avarice, which is always going to allow us to put back our Thunder Dragons, which is going to allow us to even put back EXODIA pieces. So let's say you have to Dark World Dealings and you have other draw cards and you have to pitch an EXODIA piece. No problem, because then you can just shovel it back with Avarice. So literally like this deck is like, I don't know, it just has like that layer of protection. Like you don't have to worry about discarding your EXODIA pieces because we play triple Pot of Avarice. That's what makes Edison so broken, and the fact that this card is at 3, because this deck is not possible in formats outside, if you get what I'm saying. So I think this ratio works really, really well. And then of course we're playing 1 Royal Magical Library. So your whole goal is to try to draw into this card, which doesn't always happen right away. Sometimes it's towards the end, which in those games are the games you're more likely to not get to the first turn kill. Most of the games where you see this in the early hand or the middle game, you're going to win. So you might ask yourself, okay, well, why aren't you playing more if this card makes you auto? Because if we play more Royal Magical Libraries, that is just going to brick our deck up. We only need 1. You can only normal summon once. We're trying to win in 1 turn. So that's why we only play 1 copy. So we obviously play the 5 cards we need to win the game. We play the 3 cards Consonants for our White Stones. We play 3 Tune Tables. This card is absolutely absurd because it searches another copy, it searches another copy, and then it gets you to Blue Eyes Tune. And this is also 3 spells, so this instantly makes you get a draw from Royal Magical Library, which is absolutely absurd. This is one of the best cards for deck thinning. It's a super good tool. And then I can set our 3 trade-ins to go with our 3 level 8s. And then we play 3 Upstart Goblin because it just says draw 1. So obviously we're going to play this. This is another card that is great to fuel our Royal Magical Library. And then we play 3 Dark World Dealings. This card is okay. Like, it's not like one of the best draw cards in the deck by any means, but I will say this. This works really well with Thunder when you search 2 copies, because you can just pitch 1 for free. This works really well with our White Stones to pitch it to get our Blue Eyes. And then we're playing 3 Magical Mallet. So once you get to like 8-9 cards in your hand, you can shuffle back your Exodia pieces if you only have like 3 to 4 of them, and that can allow you to draw new spells with our monsters, our discard fodder, and then you can kind of keep it going with Magical Mallet. So this is a card that, like, don't be discouraged if in the early game you have only 5 cards in your hand because you started weird with like your dealings and Exodia pieces or something, because this card, even when you shuffle back and you have 4 cards in your hand, you can draw Trade-In and Blue Eyes or Cards of Consonance, Thunder Dragon. You have so many ways to go from 4 cards to 8 cards in like a matter of seconds. So don't get discouraged having to use this early in the game. Your goal should always be to try to thin as much of your deck out, drop your avarices. So like, I'll explain. So if you're discarding Thunder Dragon to get 2, and then you hand Destruction, and then you basically run through your Cards of Consonance and your trade-ins, and you pitch these guys, and then you kind of get Avarice in your hand, and then you still have more draw cards, 100% activate your cards like Trade-In and Cards of Consonance before you activate Avarice. Literally wait until you absolutely have to activate this to use it, because you're drawing the other necessary like spell cards in your deck. You don't want to be putting back these cards when you can be drawing into stuff like Hand Destruction, stuff like Magical Mallet, stuff like your Exodia pieces that can fuel your game further. Because once you put these back in the deck, you will, chances are, probably draw one of them. And then you also have to make sure that if you do use Hand Destruction or Dark World Dealings to pitch your Exodia pieces, you're always shuffling those back the first chance you get with Avarice. And then our last spell card is going to be Foolish Burial. We play Foolish because you can dump White Stone, which gets you Blue Eyes. So that's pretty self-explanatory. This also can be convenient. Let's say you ran through these. If you only have, like, let's say you have a Blue Eyes in hand, and then you got these 4 in grave, or like these 2 in hand and these 3 in grave, and a Thunder Dragon. You can Foolish like an Exodia piece or any other monster in your deck just so you can make your Avarice live. So that's super important. So I put 4 cards here because these are 4 cards that would probably make the list if I had to play 4-ish more cards. So Volcanic Shell kind of serves the same purpose that Thunder Dragon does, but this requires you to pay life points, which I mean, this is just all around better. Because you can, like, do this without having to manipulate the graveyard or put this in the graveyard, so you can just start and instantly get that plus. If you don't have like Dark World Dealings, you're not, or Hand Destruction, you're not getting this in graveyard, so Thunder Dragon is just better. And then Future Fusion. So it was between Future Fusion and Foolish Burial, because we can Future Fusion, and then obviously if we don't get the kill, we have Future Fusion to summon this. If we did play 3 Blue Eyes, we had this. So this is kind of why the extra deck looks kind of wonky. So like, this was an option because, I mean, you can send all 3 of these and just instantly get 3 Blue Eyes, so you're up a ton of cards to fuel your Hand Destruction and Dark World Dealings. But the problem is, what if we don't open this? And then we start doing this, and then we have to Avarice, and it would just take a lot of stuff to make this card work if we drew it in the mid to late game. So that's why we didn't end up playing it. It is an option still. But I think Foolish is just all around like a more what you want it to do card, and you don't have to rely on what's left in deck, etc., etc. So yeah, I think this list is super clean. I have done so many solo hands, like actually playing the game and getting this off. I would honestly put this at probably about an 80 to 85% success rate, because usually I'm hitting about 8 out of 10 times I'm getting this, sometimes 9 out of 10 times. But I just want to show you guys like a quick game. It's not really a game because we obviously do what we're supposed to do and get our kill. but I will show you. So there's only a game 1 here, because obviously after you FTK someone, they don't want to play you, which understandable. I'm not even going to hold it against the guy. Kind of unfortunate for him, but all right. So our opponent goes first. They draw and they just set a monster. Perfect kind of opening when you're playing a deck like this. Okay. For us, we draw. And we have Whitestone, trade in, Avarice, right arm, trade in, Blue Eyes Toon. So obviously our only player is to trade in, get rid of Blue Eyes Toon. And this is what I'm talking about, guys. Like, when it looks like you have one option, don't think the deck is like done for, don't give up, because look. We're going to trade in, pitch Blue Eyes Toon, we pick up Thunder Dragon and Hand Destruction. Wow, perfect combo. So then we activate Thunder Dragon. That's going to get pitched. We're going to grab 2 more copies of Thunder Dragon. Next, we Hand Destruction, pitching 2 Thunder Dragons. We draw Toon Table and Cards of Consonance. I keep trying to tell him to send 2 and draw 2. So finally he does it. And then we're going to activate Toon Table, which gets us to our second Toon Table, which gets us to our third. So we can't activate the third because we have no target left in deck because we trade in away the Blue Eyes Toon Dragon. But you'll see that doesn't matter. So now we activate Cards of Consonance, pitching Whitestone. We're going to draw Cards of Consonance and another Whitestone. And then that Whitestone is going to activate, grabbing us Blue Eyes White Dragon. Then we're going to Cards of Consonance the second one. We pick up Mallet and Avarice. We use Whitestone again to get our second copy of our Blue Eyes. So see, you really only need 2 Blue Eyes, especially because we can put them back with that Avarice that's in our hand. So then we're going to trade in. We draw Foolish and Left Leg. Then we're going to Avarice, putting back all of our Thunder Dragons, of course. And then we put back Blue Eyes Toon Dragon and Blue Eyes White Dragon. So now that we've done our Avarice, we're going to draw into EXODIA and Library, which is perfect. So we can normal summon our Library. Then we Foolish. It's going to send Whitestone, and then we get that Blue Eyes that we just put back with our Thunder Dragons. Then we activate the Toon Table. This is what I was talking about. Don't worry. We put back the Toon Dragon, so we pick up the Toon Dragon. And now we activate Mallet. We're going to put back our entire hand. So here we pick up 7 cards, and now our library has 3 counters. So we're going to remove 3. And this is what I'm talking about, guys. We're pretty much halfway through our deck. We're up to now 8 cards in our hand. So we drew another Thunder Dragon, which I probably should have Thunder Dragon before removing the counters, but at this point it doesn't matter. If it was in the early game, that could have really mattered. So we pick up the third Thunder Dragon. We're going to activate Upstart. Then we activate Darkwood Dealings, pitching a Thunder. And then we activate Avarice. So this is going to put back 5 again. And now we draw 2 Magical Mallets. Unfortunate, but doesn't matter. We activate Thunder Dragon here, getting our 2 copies out. Now we're going to activate Library. We remove 3 counters. We draw in Hand Destruction. Perfect. We can pitch the 2 Thunders. We draw Upstart and Whitestone. So now we activate Card of Consonance, draw 2. We activate Upstart. And now we remove 3 counters. We draw again. Activate Darkwood Dealings, pitch Blue Eyes, get a counter. Activate Avarice. And put back 5. So we went through all 3 pot of Avarice. Doesn't always happen. Sometimes you only use 2, but pretty crazy. We activate Trade In, and now we have 3 Whitestones. We remove 3 to draw Blue Eyes Toon. And now we're going to activate Mallet. We're going to put back everything pretty much, besides our Exodia pieces. So we draw 6 cards. Now, if we had less cards, I probably would have just shuffled back the entire hand. But we drew into all 5 pieces. So now we're going to show our opponent. Our opponent admits defeat. And then they just quit. Which, understandable. I get it. As you can see, like, sometimes literally the last card in your deck will be an Exodia piece. So it can be kind of frustrating in that sense that you kind of got to draw your whole deck. But do not underestimate this deck. I will tell you guys that stuff like Thunder King Ryo is a great card because this deck cannot search with our Whitestones. We can't search with Thunder Dragon. So that really impacts the deck. For traps, I mean, it gets on Royal Magic Library gets under bottomless. So like your best bet would be Solemn Judgment, Compulsory, Book of Moon. Cards like that are pretty solid. But even then, you don't always need Library to win. I think it is incredible, but depending on how, it just all depends on the luck of the draw. Now, unfortunate for him, obviously he had no trap cards, and he didn't draw a DD Crow for the Avarices. So yeah, Crow's another one. DD Crow is really good. But yeah, this deck could definitely be an issue. I could see someone actually playing it in like an RBET event or something and getting there, which is kind of frustrating and unfortunate. I will say if you get Trap Dust Shooted or Mind Crushed, it doesn't always matter, depending on, I guess, what the hand is, but I don't know, guys. This deck is just scary, and I feel bad for even bringing this to light, but it needs to. You guys know about it now, and watch out. Somebody plays it, somebody plays it. Hopefully this doesn't end up taking over the format. But, alright guys, thanks for watching this quick video. Nomad out. Peace.